Here.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so the purpose of this meeting today is our fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget presentation. And I see our city manager, Vice Mayor, I'm going to try and walk you through the visuals in the room. So our city manager has walked up to the podium and will now be speaking.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Vice Mayor, we very much appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to get with us remotely. And commissioners. Thank you, sir. Today, I want to make clear that we're not setting the millage rate for the year. During this meeting currently, there'll be no vote. Later, there will be a vote to set the proposed rate, which is the highest rate by law that the commission could, in the 2 September meetings, choose to adopt. So today, we are not voting on what the rate will be. We're voting on what the proposed rate is and what the top could be. As you know, we'll start talking about rollback. Rollback is the rate that would generate the same amount of revenue from ad valorem taxes as the previous year. And this year, staff is proposing a rate of 9.7% above rollback, or 4.998 mils. And although this would create a $939,000 surplus above what we've budgeted for operating, the operating budget is built as if we had kept the rate flat. So when I met with Director Irwin and the other department heads, we decided that it was essential that we not add to the budget, that we not bloat the budget here. And that's not what we're doing with this rate increase. They've all dug in. There's no fat in our budget. They've all dug in and done the hard work of looking at what is absolutely essential. They've kept our operating to whereas if we had kept a flat rate, even though we're dealing with, as you know, a big cost of living and inflation issue. What we would do then with that additional approximately $900,000 in this first year is we would put that into a fund that is set aside for economic development and capital improvement projects. This will not go into operating. As you can see from the chart that's up there, this rate puts us in the bottom 25% of all cities in Volusia County. It is also less than what folks have paid over half the time for the last 11 years. So if you'll take a look there, our millage rate in the 15-16 fiscal year was 5.49. In addition to that, we had voted taxes, a voted millage of 2.15 to underground our utilities, and that's why we have the beautiful streetscape that we do now. But the total millage at that time for our residents was 7.65. And you can see that that came down, and in fiscal year 21-22, they had eliminated the debt, or you essentially had eliminated the debt. However, in 2021, the rate was still 5.04, which is above the rate that we are proposing today. The other thing that this demonstrates, that the rate came down as far as 4.58, that the city will, when appropriate, lower the millage rate. So should the time come, should the amendment that we're going to talk about in a minute not pass, or should other factors change, you will have the ability to lower the millage rate, and the city staff, of course, will always do what we can to keep those taxes as low as possible. What this rate would mean is the average single-family parcel in our city would pay an additional $14.55 a year. So it's not a huge dollar increase.
A month or a year, Mike?
I'm sorry, a month. I apologize, a month. For condominia, that comes down to $10.93 a month. So that's what the insurance to prepare us for what's coming that's what the monthly cost would be to our residents.
Mike, could I stop you there, either ask you or Lori, explain to me why the condos, is it based on home values?
Correct.
And so the homes that we have in Daytona Beach Shores are valued higher than most of our condos?
Correct. Significantly higher.
Okay.
So the question is, why would we propose this rate? Why would we look for a 9.7% increase? Most everyone's heard about the legislature's proposal to increase the property tax homestead exemption from $50,000 to, in the first year, $150,000, and then in the next and each following year, $250,000. It's not just that, it actually stacks on any additional exemptions that folks have. So 250 would be the minimum after the second year. What that means for the city is, in the first year, we would lose $809,346 in revenue. Obviously, we run a flat budget, an even budget, so that's going to be where we're going to have to either make up that revenue, or we're going to have to cut services or cut personnel, or most likely both. In the second year, of each subsequent year, that is $1.4 million a year out of our operating. The question has come up, why don't we just use reserves to fill that shortfall? Well, there's two reasons for that. One, that's not sustainable. If we took $1.4 million out of our reserves, those would quickly be used up, and we had still done nothing to make up for the shortfall that would come every year. The other thing is, those reserves are not intended to be part of your operating. Those reserves are there to respond to unforeseen circumstances such as hurricanes. As you know, after the last hurricanes, we were out picking up debris and having debris hauled off immediately. And that's because the city, you all had the forethought to build up the reserves so that we could respond to that immediately. That's not the case in every city. There are cities that, in Volusia County, that following hurricanes have had to go out and sign a loan and secure a loan before they can start the cleanup. That doesn't happen here. The ad valorem, or property taxes, is the city's only unrestricted revenue, and that's what this attacks. All of our other revenue sources come, but they come with strings attached. They tell us where we have to spend that money. So most folks know about this. They know that this is coming. What they probably don't know about is that the state passed a statute this year that took away and restricted the way that you all can set the mills. This is another move by the state to further restrict you all. In the past, the millage rate was set by majority vote. That is no longer the case. Anything that you vote above rollback, even a flat rate, has to have a supermajority of the full commission to have that pass. If you have to go ever 10% above, if there were some unforeseen circumstance or something changed so significantly that you had to go 10%, you have to have a unanimous vote now. That's why we're proposing this year and not next year, because the state has shown a propensity to restrict your ability to set these rates yourself. In speaking with a lobbyist, he felt that the legislature may actually have the appetite to further restrict you, which is why we need to get this done now and not later. So we know that the state is attempting to restrict our ability to generate ad valorem revenue by the two means: upping the homestead exemption and restricting your ability to set the mills. So that is why staff feels it's imperative to proactively look at protecting our ability to carry out the services in the means and manner in which our residents expect them to be carried out. So with that, I will turn it over to Director Irwin, who can go into the details of the budget.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you, City Manager Fowler, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, staff and residents. Lori Irwin, City of Daytona Beach Shores. First and foremost, I'd like to actually thank the city manager and staff and the commission for their help in working this budget. I believe that it's one of the best things that we've done in a long time, putting this together. Some of the key influencers in determining this budget are the infrastructure progressions that we have currently. We have wastewater infrastructure upgrades. We have 3 major projects going on to take care of basically everything with our wastewater here in the city. We have a public works facility expansion project that is going on. We have citywide need studies. We have a stormwater assessment study being done by Volusia County that is done with a grant through Volusia County that works with Volusia County, the Shores, Port Orange, and Daytona, because our stormwater actually encompasses all that from the flooding from the hurricanes. We also are working on economic development. Where do we want the city to go? Where do we want it to be? What do we want here? And we're working on a city street survey. So how are our streets? What do we need to do to take care of them and improve those? We have public safety investments, the community center generator, city hall wind shutters. We're looking at reinforcing the buildings for emergencies, because when we do have an emergency, staff is here so that we can take care of residents at all times during those emergencies. Economic development is a big thing right now that we're looking at. You know, how is the city going to evolve? Are the residents being involved, which they are? They've been at the workshops. Or are we going to let it grow organically? Well, judging from the people that have come to our workshops and been involved, I would say not. They want to be involved. Our human capital, which is our staff, the people that are out there maintaining the streets, your sewers, your parks, your utility billing, your faces at the city hall, public safety. And then we have to look at the property tax exemption effects, how that affects us, as the city manager had talked about. And then we're not putting any reductions in service levels currently in this budget. Now, what we do going forward, you know, that will depend on what happens in November. Now I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off right now. The citywide total budget is $116 million. This is probably the largest budget the city has had. The reason being is because of all of our funds. We have our general fund budget of almost $25 million. That's our normal operating budget. We also have a capital fund budget for the general fund of $5.2 million. The big part of this is the actual sewer fund. That's an almost $86 million budget. The sewer budget is $52 million. You can see there that our capital funds for the enterprise, the sewer, is $33.4 million. That is that project. And we'll talk later as to why there's transfers of money that actually make that larger, look larger than $116 million. But as the city manager pointed out, our general fund millage rate is going to increase. The proposal is to 4.9998 mils per thousand, a 9.7% increase over the rollback rate. And he explained what the rollback rate was. And we're going to produce an additional $939,000 in anticipation of that property assessment vote, which will go into economic development, capital improvement, or whatever projects that City Commission approves going forward. This also includes $350,000 for economic development. This goes towards your lease subsidy program. This will go towards a renewed beautification program and the facade grant that the city manager has been speaking about. Now you can see here some of the highlights compared to this current year's budget. It's an 18.1% increase over last year. Again, that is due to your sewer projects. The proposed rates, we talked about that. And your CPI last year was 1.9% versus 2.89% this year. You can see our capital expenditures have increased about $600,000 from last year. We're doing a lot of projects. There's, you'll see it later on in the presentation, we have your public safety vehicle replacement program that Commissioner Dubinsky helped to put in place. Personnel cost went up about 0.9% this next year. Health insurance costs increased only 9.3%. I say only because we're usually looking at 12% or more for health benefits. And our operational costs actually went down. Thank you to our staff directors for actually going in and really scrutinizing our budgets to see where we could pull anything back in. This is an all-fund summary. This looks at this current year budget, 25-26, what we're proposing for 26-27, and the actual budget for 24-25. The top line is your general fund. Again, your operating fund that we do our daily operations with. And you can see that over last year, we have a 0.8% increase, so 24 million to another 24.6, $200,000. Your economic development fund, you can see that $350,000 that we want to budget for improvements for those facade grants and the beautification, and additional lease subsidy grants to bring businesses in. We have a capital improvement fund, that again is the 5.2 million. You can see we went 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. We need to do the projects and get things done here for the city. And there's your total sewer funds, and $85.8 million, which brings us to the total of $116 million. But you can see that interfund transfers of $39 million. That is money that goes from the general fund into the sewer, the capital improvement fund. It goes from the sewer fund into the sewer capital improvement fund. So it's being looked at twice, counted in there twice. So that's why if you remove that, now you're at $77 million, of which 38.6 million is projects, capital projects.
Laura, before you leave this page, so do we have a separate reserve fund for sewers, or is it part of that general 24 point, whatever that is? Is there a separate?
There's a separate one.
Okay, how much do we have in the reserves for the sewer fund?
Currently 12 million.
Okay.
May I ask a question? Now, I've done a lot of research, and a lot of cities are preparing for the amendment, see what happens with it, but they're holding back on capital projects. So are these capital projects already in progress, and are we receiving grant money for some of these?
Yes, we are,
Okay, so
Commissioner. And you'll see there is actually a lot of funding coming in for these projects and grants. And then actually for the general fund capital of the $5 million, $2 million of that is from this current fiscal year that will carry over. Because if things are not completed even if we ordered them, if they're not here by 9/30, they cannot be counted in this year. So then we roll it over into next year.
So if somebody is asking, can we just halt these projects, we cannot, and in part because we're receiving grant money and we'll lose that money, correct?
Correct. The grant money has to be used by a deadline. Most of it is basically, I think, December of 2028.
If anyone has any other questions, sometimes it's easier when you're on that page. I had one other question. Where would I see in there, Senator Wright will be here this afternoon to present us with our check for $350,000. Would I see that in this budget this year?
Yes.
Okay.
So it'll be all income included in grants, because that's what it is. You'll see it later on in the capital improvement budget.
Okay, and then we'll need to come up with another 350 because it was a 50-50 match, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right, and that'll come out, are we using sewer funds for that?
Sewer,
Okay,
yes.
all right, thank you.
I have a question. The economic development side, I see there's 350,000 there. I know we currently have somewhere around $400,000 to $500,000 in the lease subsidy. Is that right? I think we sold a piece of property, and that's where we're getting this from.
It's not working. The next slide, if I can get to it. Sorry for technical difficulties.
Okay.
The next slide actually is our fund balance, which is our reserve balance, and that will show you that there's actually 491,000.
Okay.
You'll
So
see here in economic development.
we're gonna add to that 490,000? And we're still gonna be, are we gonna use this money to enhance some of the properties? Is that the whole idea behind this?
Yes, what will go on is the facade grant, which staff will actually be putting that program together and bringing that to commission in the early near future as to, the criteria and what they're planning on doing with that.
Can we use part of that 500 right now? And maybe you have to answer this, but is it dedicated only to the 500 that we right now have? Is that dedicated only to the lease subsidy side?
Economic development.
Okay, fair enough.
Lori, that started out, I'm surprised and quite pleasantly surprised we have that much left, because this started out with about, was it 800 and some thousand from the sale of what's now Osage 25? So we've used, about 300,000 in lease subsidies, and the little bit that we were doing at the beginning. I think we were doing the 10%. And we did not have anyone that took the ATR, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it was that couple when we were doing the 10%, and there was only one or two that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so in the fund balance, you can see here your general fund is that top line. Now this is as of 10/1 of 2026. You're looking at the general fund having about $16.6 million. When you look at the revenue and expenditures that come in, you can see that line, that the fourth line, use of fund balance. That's coming directly out of that fund balance, which now would bring it down at 9/30/2027, the general fund down to $10.6 million. So we use that for capital. Now, anything that is not used, or if there's expenditures that, as we, that we budgeted for, as the year goes by, if we see that those expenditures are not needed, or we've negotiated better pricing, all of that funding goes back into the reserves. So that number could actually get higher, depending on what happens throughout the year on expenditures. Same thing with the capital improvement. You can see there's only $338,000 that's left over from last year or this current year. And so that $5.2 million comes in, goes out. There could be more money left over based on, what happens with pricing, bidding. I don't think this likes me. There we go. Your just values. These are your market values here in the city for 25 and 26. You can see by the yellow line there, which is Daytona Beach Shores, our market value has actually gone down 2% in the last year, which accounts for, on the one slide, why condos are less, about 100,000 less than the single-family homes because of the market right now. Market has a huge impact on property appraisals.
When's the last time that we had a decrease like this? Do you remember on property values? Was it right after the?
2%?
2007, 2008.
That's what okay.
There was it actually right after the hurricanes.
Ian and Nicole, or?
Yes,
Okay.
Ian and Nicole.
I thought it went down, yeah.
Prior to that, it would have been about 2008-9 when you had the real estate market. And actually, the city just, right, the year that Ian hit, That year, actually, we got to the level that we were at back in 2008. So that goes to show it takes a while here. Here is actually your growth in your market value since 2015-16. We have had a 64% increase in growth, 175 new parcels, so that takes into account any condominiums. Here's your taxable value. Now this went up 1%. So you went from $2.3 billion to 2.325, an increase of 24 million. So this is...
Wait, I'm sorry, explain to me what taxable value is opposed to the
So you have
assessment.
your market value, and you have your taxable value, which accounts for any of your exemptions.
Okay, got it.
So this is what that millage goes against. So when they talk about the rollback rate, so if the rollback rate is different from what it was the year before, it's because of the value here.
That's almost, it looks like that's one of the flattest lines, if I'm looking there, right?
It is very, it's only 1% change. And you can see here, here's your taxable value. It did have a 58% increase due to condos. Property values going up. Here's your number of parcels. Currently, we're at 6,708. Back in 15-16, so 11 years ago, 6,533.
And that's every condo, and so a building had 100 condos, okay.
Correct.
That's
So
considered.
it's only a 2.68% increase, which, when you look at the shores, I mean, where can we grow? We either have to grow up or annexations. So economic development is very important going forward. And again, you saw this with the city manager had explained where we're at with the proposed millage rate. So I'm not going to waste your
Laura,
time.
can I add one thing to that slide?
You sure can.
Thanks. One thing that I should have mentioned when we were on this slide before is although we're, second in the highest rate increase, most of those cities that you see up there are proposing other fees. We are not proposing other fees at this point. They're proposing fire assessment fee, stormwater assessment fee, and implementing other fees that staff is not recommending at this time. So,
I have a couple of questions. I'm glad you came back up. That 9.7% interest, I noticed that the operational costs are only going up, I think it was 1% on one of the other slides. Is this budget, is it going to account for raises for the employees and for additions to their packages? Because that is the most important.
yes, sir, but not because of that increase.
No, I understand
And that's the raises that are set for the employees, and Director Irwin will cover that in a minute, is based on a flat rate. All that is accounted for. Our directors went in, you already know that I implemented a hiring freeze when this statute passed that put this on the ballot. So we've started cost-cutting measures there. We've looked at operations costs, and we've, again, cut our operations lower than what the inflation was in the last year. So I'm really happy with the way that staff dug into this. But yes, we do have raises built in. Don't want to lose the human capital that we have. That'll be essential going forward. And we were able to do it without the mill increase that we see here. Thank you.
Laura, what's the difference between the rollback and what we had last year? I guess I'm asking you percentage-wise, so 4.5561 to 4.5880,
0.69%.
less than 1%.
Oh, yeah. And again, the rollback is just the same dollar figure, dollar for dollar, that you got one year versus the other. So where we had 4.5880 to get that same exact revenue dollar, it would be 4.5561 this current year. Very small. That's because of the taxable value, that 1%. This is your millage rate history. I won't spend any time on this as the city manager had gone through this. Again, here is your proposed tax increase that the city manager did go over. You can see here the parcels where you have 54% of the single-family homes are homestead, and your condominium is 29.3% homestead. And the average taxable value there, the $393,000 versus the $295,000.
That's the
Again, market value.
average taxable for a condo is $295 right now.
Correct. This is the additional impact of property taxes that the city manager was talking about would have on city revenue. And again, that's in 2 years, 27, 28, a $2.2 million change.
So Lori, looking at the bottom, it says average impact per homestead property in year 1, year 2. So the first year, the average impact on whether you're a home or a condo is about, what's that, $30 a month, something like that?
You have an annual
So,
savings.
and after year 2, it'll be $55. So I'm gonna save $30 a month if this homestead exemption passes.
Yes,
That's average.
yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's-
So, and that can lead to a loss of services, a loss of recreation, a loss of what we do here in the shores.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Here's your taxable value by property class. You can see here residential is 84%. We are mainly a residential city. We are fortunate that we actually only have a small percentage of homesteaded properties. So that helps with our tax revenue. But we all know as things change, as people move here, stay here, homestead here, as the homestead, if more exemptions, whatever happens in the legislature, that's going to directly affect this. Our commercial is 14%, very small here. Again, economic development, what we're going to do to help build the city going forward, to stay in the city. We have here's our revenue budget summary. As you can see there, our non-voted ad valorem taxes are almost 46% of our revenue comes from ad valorem taxes. Charges for services are 9% of our revenue. So that, as that ad valorem goes down, all of these other revenue sources hopefully will need to go up, but some of them, your franchise fees and permits, your business and communications taxes, those are all being looked at right now also, and they're going to be limiting that. And you're limited at the use, what you can use them for. And that transfer from fund balance, 24%, as the city manager had discussed, as we use funds, even though that they're for capital purchases, that's depleting that fund reserve, so that if you do by chance have a year that you need it for operational, you're taking it right out of your reserves and limiting to what you have for emergencies and future capital. Here's your expenditures by department. You can see that public safety is the largest expenditure. But again, it's only 32%. We're accustomed to that being around 51 to 52%. The reason why it's not there right now is because of that transfer out of capital, because we're moving all that money out, so it's taking a bigger piece out of the pie. So as that goes smaller, then it will change. That public safety budget will go back up to being the higher percentage of the budget. The next would be your public works, which is your streets, your parks, your facilities, and your environment. That would be your garbage. That takes care of all your garbage here in the city. This is a little overwhelming. This is actually a comparison of your general fund from 2020-21 through the proposed budget of 2026-27. Now, this is very important. As you see that yellow line there, that actually looks at your budget. And when you look at 2020-2021, you can see that the budget was $22.4 million. The line above that, $6.5 million, that's capital. So you're looking at like a $16 million budget, which is what you're accustomed to seeing. And as you go each year, so 2021-22, a $17 million budget with about $1 million in capital. So you're talking a $16 million budget. So as you go through this, you can see in 2024-25, the budget goes up because your capital goes up. That's when we actually created that capital improvements fund to separate the capital away from your main budget, even though you have your transfers there.
Was that required by the state, or you just did it for?
The city manager at the time, yes. So now what you have is, if you look at that $7 million, that's bringing you down to $18 million. So when you look at the budget over the last 6 years and what we're proposing going forward, it's pretty flat. So your department heads have really scrutinized things and kept expenses, even with inflation. There. So here's where your personnel and benefits. The city is proposing, we have merit raises. It ranged between 2.89% and 4.39%. It starts at that 2.8% because of CPI. Now that takes into account, as of the month of March, over 1 year CPI, but then it's averaged over a 20-year period. So that's where that comes from. And so we're also proposing $1 an hour for all full-time personnel. You know, that will, for your different levels of positions, that will, you know, be a higher percentage for, say, a grade 8 versus a grade 12 or 16. So we're wanting to do things for staff.
Is this the first time we did a flat like that?
Well, we did one, Commission did one 2 years ago.
Was it only $1, or it was higher than that?
We did $1.30 in October and another one in April. The Commission had approved that.
Okay, great. So this puts even the lowest paid employee well over the $15 minimum that's required, that's going to be
Yes.
required. Okay. So there is no one that was in jeopardy. Okay.
No. It would make, I believe, and Ms. Susan can correct me, if that, well, the dollar wasn't, it was $17.09 is the minimum.
Okay.
1709, that's correct.
Thank you.
The lowest.
And even with the health insurance increase of, we have 2 different plans, so you're looking at about 9.5% increase. The city is not going to change the cost share for employees. It will remain what it is currently there that you see.
Okay, and then is this the slide, the health insurance that's going to be relooked at? We're going to take bids in January?
In January, yes. We've already gone out to an RFQ. They'll be coming in and looking at everything in January, presenting to staff and commission, because our fiscal year goes October 1 through September.
Okay.
So to start something in January, it was a little confusing.
Okay.
Now we look at the sewer, and you can see the sewer budget changing. This current year was $43 million versus the proposed $52 million. Again, your CPI is the same, but you can see your capital purchases there have gone up to $33 million. That encompasses all, which is mainly 3 major sewer projects that all have to be accounted for this next year. There's one for citywide forest main capacity expansion at 11.2 million, a sewer improvements, sewer lining and manholes for 5.4 million, and a master pump station and lift station improvements for 15.3 million. And actually, here you can see 86.3% of the revenue in the sewer budget is from grants.
And I have to stop and say, thank you very much. You've done an excellent job in the past couple of years of going to every source available to try to get us grants, so we appreciate that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will tell you that all staff works very hard because.
Thank you, all staff.
Lieutenant Goetz is right here.
Yeah.
She is always looking at any kind of public safety grant that she can get out there, so it's definitely a joint effort.
So I'll start with you, and I want to thank each and every member of the staff for doing that to help us along. Because I think there was a period of years that we didn't get a lot of grants. So, thank you for proactively, and you have to apply for a lot to get half or a quarter or whatever you get. Thank you.
Here's your expenditures. You can see transfers is at 64% is the largest amount. There is actually debt on there of 28%. That is due to a grant. What happens is we have to get a loan. We have the state revolving fund loan for $14.5 million in order to get a grant. That grant is a principal forgiveness grant, so that pays for the loan. So that's what that's for.
Interest-free, or is there interest on that?
There's minimal interest. It's like a 1%. So that's based on usage. So I think it's after 30 days. But I've actually figured about $145,000 into this budget because right now they're looking at 90 to 180 days of reimbursement.
Not FEMA. FEMA's like 2 to 3, 4 years, right?
And your capital improvement, you can see here most of our revenue for capital improvement, 54% are grants. We do have 11% in grants pending, so we're constantly applying for grants. Here are some amounts. I know it's a little small. You have your general vehicles equipment for $491,000. You can see there the sewer system for $33 million. And actually in your agenda, and if anyone needs a copy of it, we do have the full capital improvement budget in there, which will have everything from 2026-27 to 30-31, all projects. For this current proposed budget year, you can see here we're looking at information technology, which is huge. We're looking at access controls for the network and for the buildings. We're needing a new Bobcat from what I was told. We had an engine that blew up. And you can see there the public safety. We're looking at 6 vehicles. Again, this is part of that program for our public safety officers as they go through their training. I believe it's after a year, then they get a vehicle, take-home vehicle. Then transportation, we're looking at that. We're waiting for that street survey to get done to see what we can and need to do to our streets. The facility renewal and replacement, Bank of America. Once that all is taken care of, we'll probably have to do some parking lot improvements, City Hall, AC. The shutters are on there, which the hurricane shutters are partially funded by an HMGP grant. We're also updating the bathrooms in the City Hall because, again, that's where staff stays during an emergency, so this way we can stay there. And the community center, that's where the generator is, another HMGP grant, and building upgrades, including new carpet. Public Works, that's a facility building expansion off of the Public Works building. That, again, it will allow our vehicles to be housed there. And we have a new, and actually that was a state appropriation also of $900,000. Thank you to Senator Bright.
I don't think he's here yet. So that money, that grant that we got, that has been put in some non-interest-bearing, I hope, account until we're ready to use it?
We don't, that.
Have we actually
most
received the
are-
check?
Well, we received a big check. We don't receive the funding. It's all based on reimbursement.
Okay.
So as we spend money, we submit it and get reimbursed for that. Most grants nowadays are that way. And you'll see that we've got money built in for pickleball court renovations. In the sewer, we have a TV inspection equipment, replacement of a vehicle, and again, a sewer mobile unit of Actron for the guys to use. Again, this was partially funded by a state appropriation of $375,000. Again, thank you to Senator Wright for everything. And thank you, Mayor, for everything that you've done going out there. Nancy, the city manager, because that's what you're out there talking to these legislators. So.
And when we say that, I want to make sure, and I have to give special kudos to Representative Tremont. Even though he only has 13 homes in our district, he pulls his lion's share of advocating on our behalf. So it was, the bill was, or the appropriations was through Senator Wright and Representative Tremont. So we'll make sure that we have him sometime in September at Coffee with the Mayor, so we can thank him as